How do, ladies and gents? Just been looking through a couple of the Facebook forums on the TEFL industry, which is my industry. TEFL is teaching English as a foreign language, and there's quite an abundant online community on Facebook and various other platforms where people from all over the world chat. I pay attention mainly to the ones in Spain, obviously, because that's where I'm based, and a lot of people who are interested in coming over also post a lot of their questions there. I've noticed today, just from trawling through a couple of them, that there's two main questions that are coming up at the moment. The first is obviously about Brexit next year. I don't really feel qualified to comment on that because, like most people, I have very little idea as to what's happening at the moment. But the second one is something I probably know a little bit more about, which is will the bottom go out of the TEFL business? So will the TEFL business go bad soon? And I would say, unfortunately or fortunately, that the answer is yes. So teaching English abroad, especially in Spain, I think eventually the business will go downhill. The reason I say that, the predominant reason, is that standards are improving all the time. The state schools who hire teachers from here, from this country, the level now is so much better than when even I started teaching here 7 years ago. Just the level in the schools is so much better. So the demand to send kids to academies and things like that is probably going to go down because they can achieve what they want through the school system. And also combined with that, you've got people taking a much greater interest in multicultural, multinational television. Here we've got all the same series that you probably watch at home, you know, the Breaking Bads, Sherlock's, to name a couple. Peaky Blinders is taking off here as well. And, you know, a lot of people now starting to switch it from, Spain always used to do dubbed television, but a lot of people now are starting to watch it in the original language, in English, with subtitles, and they're picking up a lot more language. So eventually, speaking purely from that perspective, I don't know what effects any kind of political thing will have on it, but eventually I think this industry will kind of collapse a little bit. Not completely, but it's going to be much more selective as to when people need English classes. So is this going to be good or bad? In my opinion, it's going to be absolutely fantastic because TEFL, the English teaching profession, like many professions, finds itself full of chances sometimes. You know, people who have absolutely no business doing this will come over and make an almighty mess of it and wreck the reputation of the rest of us. You know, if I nail a couple of pieces of wood together and then walk around calling myself a carpenter, you know, if you're in the carpentry trade, you'll find that ridiculous and maybe a little insulting. And the same thing happens with English teaching as well. People come over backpacking or whatever, and they've got the attitude like, oh yeah, I'm a great teacher. I don't know anything about it. I've never really read a book in my life, but I can, you know, I'll sit, you give me a couple of beers, a couple of euros, and I'll sell myself as an English teacher. And it's not great, to be honest. For those of us who've been doing it for a while, like really trying to invest in ourselves and get better at it, that is very frustrating that people come over and do that. It's not just a question of an experience, it's a question of attitude. A lot of people come with the attitude that it's a holiday over here, they're just going to mess around, not even show up on time for classes, show up in no condition to work, and well, that is a frustrating point. And I know a lot of industries have that problem. I'd compare it actually to, if you remember back to the UK, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of people went into construction and worked cash jobs. I remember people walking around my hometown bragging about how much money they were earning in cash, how the rest of us were idiots because we should just get, you know, go and work on this site, they'll give you 700 quid a week cash, and, you know, that'll be good forever. And a couple of years later, they were laid off with no severance pay because they were just working under the table. They hadn't saved any money because they were all wearing these great clothes, driving these nice cars, and a lot of them got laid off because the industry just went down. And what happened was, the people, I've got a couple of my best friends who did this, a couple of my best friends invested in themselves when it was like this crest of a wave and construction was really high. And instead of just spending it on ridiculous stuff, all their money on luxuries, They invested in themselves. They bought equipment. They set up their own businesses. They invested in courses where they could learn, like one of my mates now, he's invested in courses in drywalling, home decorating, a little bit of electronics and plumbing, I think, as well. So he's got the whole thing, the whole industry he's learned about. You know, if you want to build a house, you can do all of it. So people like that who were professional and dedicating themselves to it survived the crisis and the drop in the business. And the people who were pretending to be builders, off you go. I think the same will happen with English teaching, and I think it'll be brilliant. The people who've actually invested in the qualifications, getting a CELTA, getting the TOEFL or whatever it may be, are going to actually stick around and be able to establish themselves even more. And if you're still thinking of coming over here and setting up, for sure, if you're going to take it seriously, there will be an opportunity for you. I think all we're going to lose in the end are the people who are going to come over, ask for a couple of beers payment, not use any kind of textbook, not learn anything, not bother to revise grammar or whatever like that. These people are going to fall out. The smaller academies maybe will fall out as well. The big academies will survive. And I don't see any problem with that. I think that every once in a while, every trade goes through this. And there is kind of like a purge, and the pretenders get pushed out, and you know, the bigger academies and the professionals, the self-employed professionals who've invested in themselves will stick around. So that's it really. If you are thinking of coming over and trying TEFL, yeah, it is a tough industry. A lot of people just think, oh, if you speak English, you can do it. But before you take that attitude, just remember the analogy I made about the carpenter. Just because you can nail two boards together does not make you a carpenter. There's a lot more that goes into it. And yeah, sure, if you want to make the effort, anyone can do it if you take the time and the effort to do it. But if you're a pretender, you just want to come over and backpack and make yourself a couple of euros and take money off the rest of us who are here, see ya. You'll be gone soon. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll speak soon.